Hello, everybody. It is Monday, February 16th, 2026. Welcome to episode 118 of the Old Mage MTG podcast with your hosts, Old Mage Steve and Old Mage Alex.
Hey.
Thank you so much for joining us. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app, including Spotify, where we also upload video. If you join us on YouTube, you can also become an official channel member for the low price of $1.99. That is cheaper than the current market price of Seeds of Innocence from Mirage, which how much is that running right now? $6.18. $6.18 for a Seeds of Innocence. That's more expensive than I thought it was going to be, Alex.
Yeah.
Seeds of Innocence, 1 colorless, 2 green, sorcery. Bury all artifacts. Each artifact's controller gains an amount of life equal to that artifact's casting cost. You might say, but Steve, Seeds of Innocence is a reserve list rare. You heard what I said there? I said reserve list rare. Is that true? It is. So it's likely going to go up in value over time. Also, how else am I supposed to clear the board of mana rocks in my mono green mana denial decks? I understand those are good points. But will Seeds of Innocence read you poetry? We will. If you join the channel for $1.99, you will have curated poems read to you at the end of the episode that we record after you first join. They'll be read to you by Old Mage Alex. And I got to clarify that I did say curated poems. I think in an earlier episode, I said custom poems, which may sound like Old Mage Alex is going to sit down and write a poem just for you and read it on the podcast. That's not going to happen. But he is going to go through the annals of poetry and curate a poem special for you. You might then say, Steve, I hate poetry and I still want Seeds of Innocence. I need it for my mono green mana denial deck. Well, in that case, you're in luck. You can purchase Seeds of Innocence using our TCG affiliate link, which you can find in the description below. You get your reserve list rare, and then we get a little percentage of your purchase price. So it helps out the podcast too. You get the cards you want. You help the old mages. It's a win-win for everybody. Now that the intro is out of the way, do you have anything you want to say, Alex, in the intro?
Some Seeds of Innocence now.
Seeds of Innocence. I actually want to too. This is why this is why
I
this
didn't know
one's
it was reserve list.
This is why this one's in the intro today, because I was an episode I want to do in the not too distant future is present cards that are pre-modern legal but are well off of their all-time highs, right? Because everybody's been talking about the increased interest in the pre-modern format and the prices going up. It's not really the budget format that it was when we first started playing several years ago now. A lot of the staples are expensive, and that is true. There are a lot of cards in the pre-modern format that right now are like 5x what they were a couple years ago or more. But there's a lot of cards still that are interesting and good for kitchen table magic that are well off their all-time highs. And now's not a bad time to purchase them. Seeds of Innocence is one of them. I do like this card, maybe not for pre-modern, but maybe for an EDH deck made with just all pre-modern legal cards, which is kind of what I like doing. Build commander decks, but with old cards. This card was over $30 back in 2022. Yeah. I can get it for like $6.18. Anyways, enough Seeds of Innocence talk. We're moving on to segment 1. Segment 1 they called it White Lightning. Today we're going to talk about White Lightning, not the 1973 film directed by Joseph Sargent, written by William W. Norton and starring Burt Reynolds as Bobby Gator McCluskey, an Arkansas moonshine runner who agrees to work for the Department of the Treasury to investigate crooked County Sheriff J.C. Connors, who killed Gator's younger brother, Donnie. Not that White Lightning. Side note, Alex. Have you ever known anybody named Gator? Do you ever meet any Gators?
No, I have not had the esteemed privilege.
I did. I've known a gator.
Yeah.
When I rented from some slumlord in a city I used to live in, every time something would go wrong in the department, not the in the apartment,
Oh,
contact maintenance, and then it's usually when the ceiling was leaking, water leaking from the ceiling, running down the wall. Gator would show up with a hammer like the
Gator
next
the
day,
handyman.
and Gator would just smash a hole in the fucking wall, and then he'd put a
There's
tarp
your
over it.
problem.
He'd put a tarp over it, and then he'd leave, and then he'd come back maybe like 3 weeks later, and then he'd patch it up, do some shitty patch job, and then the wall would still be wet. And then you'd contact maintenance, and you'd be like, he just patched it, and the wall's wet, so I don't think the leak was actually fixed. And then maintenance would be like, don't worry about it. It still needs some time to dry out. And then you'd wait a couple weeks and the wall would still be wet. And you'd be like, I don't think the leak is fixed. And then they wouldn't respond. And then when you go to move out, they keep your security deposit, right? And then you send them emails asking why you didn't get your security deposit back, and they don't respond. And then one day you're on your lunch break from work and you finally call them on the phone and they don't know your number. So they pick up, and then you're like, hey, this is your former tenant. I'm wondering why I didn't get my security deposit back. And then they're like, well, there was a ton of damage in the apartment. You left the apartment with a ton of damage. You're like, what are you talking about? Are you talking about the leak in the wall that I had no control over, that I asked you to fix multiple times and you didn't fix? And then they're like, it was filthy. It was crazy. There was so much, it was rotting wall. And you're like, what did that have to do with me? Did they have anything to do with me? And then they're like, also, the tenant across the hall, they moved out. They didn't pay their trash bill. And then you're like, what the fuck does that have to do with me? Huh? Did you ever meet a gator like that, Alex? That
No.
doesn't repair things for your slumlord, and then your slumlord steals your security deposit? We're not talking about that movie today. We're not talking about the movie White Lightning with Burt Reynolds. We're talking about a
Oh,
White Weenie deck that took first place at U.S. Nationals in 1999. And this White Weenie deck was piloted by Kyle Rose. So this is the top 8 U.S. Nationals 1999. White Weenie by Kyle Rose took the first spot. In the number 2 spot, we had Enchantress, piloted by John Hunka Hunka Burnin' Love. 3 and 4, we had Replenish Bargain. Another White Weenie deck, piloted by Stephen McArthur, another version of White Lightning. 5th through 8, we had Living Death, Magpie, Phantom Menace, and again, Replenish Bargain. There are a lot of decks that I don't know much about here that we need to talk more about one day.
do you know what Phantom Menace is?
I don't. This is the one actually that I wanted to dig into the most. This is a deck that was piloted by V. Mauschwitz.
That's like right when the movie came out, so I assume named after the same.
We got City of Traders and Crystal Vein. So these are ramp lands, soul lands. So I'm assuming it's a combo-based deck that wants to do something with high casting cost spells and do it quickly. 4 Dark Rituals, 3 Show and Tells, 3 Turnabouts, Yawgmoth's Will, Delusions of Mediocrity. A Yawgmoth Bargain and Delusions of Mediocrity deck. Delusions of Mediocrity, 3 colorless, 1 blue enchantment. When it comes into play, you gain 10 life. When it leaves play, you lose 10 life.
Okay. By the way, sets out in 99 would be the Urza's block, and it looks like Mercadian Masks came out in September of that year.
September. Okay, so September's after U.S. Nationals
Okay,
here. I
so
think
yeah,
this
this is
happened in like June,
Urza's
July.
and before.
So we'll get into those at some point in the not too distant future because I want to learn more about Phantom Menace. Replenish Bargain too. These must be earlier versions of Replenish decks, which I also don't know much about. But we see White Lightning in the 1st and 3rd or 4th spot. The key card in the deck is in the Premodern card pool, but it sees almost no play today. So that key card in these White Lightning decks is a spell called Waylay. And Waylay is 2 colorless, 1 white, It's an instant, and it reads, put 3 night tokens into play. Treat these tokens as 2/2 white creatures. Remove them from the game at end of turn.
I was just looking at this card.
It's an uncommon. Current market price of 26 cents. And it has no reprints at all.
Huh.
So I first showed you this card maybe a couple weeks ago.
Oh, did you show it to me? Okay.
Yeah, I did.
That's why I was just looking at it.
Yeah. And I mentioned, I read something about people using it like a ball lightning, and you were like, it doesn't even make any sense. Like, it's really clear how the card is meant to be played. It's right there in the name, right? Waylay. It's supposed to be a combat trick. This is what the designers of the card were imagining for this spell when they printed it. It was a combat trick.
Mhm.
Waylay is to intercept or attack from an ambush as in order to rob, seize, or slay, to await or accost unexpectedly. So, you wait for your opponent to attack, you cast Waylay as an instant, you generate these 3 night tokens, and then you use them as surprise blockers.
Mhm.
But somebody noticed a loophole in the rules at the time that they could exploit with this card. One of the people was Kyle Rose. This is Kyle Rose right here. This is from a video on the Tranquil Domain YouTube channel. This particular video is called Magic's Iconic Decks, White Lightning. And in this video, he interviews Kyle Rose about the origin story of White Lightning. This is a quote from the mouth of Kyle Rose. He was talking about his preparation for this tournament and how he decided what to play. Kyle Rose said, I don't remember having a deck prepared at all, which I thought was interesting. He came to the tournament undecided what to play in the construction portion of the tournament. But then in the limited portion of the tournament, he saw this card Waylay. And I found another old article. This was written by Brian David Marshall for the Wizards website back in the day. It was called Teaming Up for U.S. Nationals. And this is a quote from this article. During the 1998-99 season, Kyle Rose became the U.S. champ with his trademark White Weenie deck. Kyle was one of the first players to exploit the words at end of turn on a card when he played Waylay in his constructed deck. There's Kyle Rose playing Waylay. He's looking really surprised. He's like, I can't believe this shit works. The card was a blowout in limited, but was not believed to have much constructed application since the 3 tokens did not have haste.
Mhm.
So, you couldn't play them and then attack
Yeah.
right away with it
You
before
need
they
a
went away.
haste enabler with them, or yeah.
That's what you would think. As the legend goes, Kyle saw someone cast the card after end of turn effects had resolved in a limited match and thus get to keep their knights until the next turn's end step. And he adapted his constructed deck for the white ball lightning.
Mm.
So what he saw somebody do in the draft portion of the tournament was his opponent's turn at their end of turn, but after the end of turn effects had resolved, they cast it, and then they got to keep it for their turn and attack with it. So he not everybody who saw that card at the time was clear that it would work that way with the current rule set. So he checked with a judge. He said in this interview, he checked with a judge before finalizing his deck. I thought that was interesting because, uh, White Lightning, White Lightning. I always want to do that. I'm staring at cards. I'm like, does it work this way? Nah, it can't work that way. I just must not understand. I don't have judges available to me to ask. I always want to be like, can I actually do this? Well, when you're at a major tournament, you have judges right there and you can ask them. What he said in this interview was, the way I remember it is I asked the judge to make sure that the card would work how we thought it would work, where you would get to keep the creatures and be able to attack. So I want to explain a little bit about, what he's talking about here. I found another old article. This one is written by Mike Flores. It's called The Legacy of White Lightning. And it was an article he wrote for his Swimming with Sharks series back in 2006. This was a series that was published on magicthegathering.com. And he goes into a lot of details here about the tournament, the development of the deck. One of the things he said was, you see, Waylay, which contained the at end of turn language, featured a triggered effect that went on the stack at the beginning of the end of turn step. So I want to take a step back here to 1999 and say in 1999, 6th edition was released. And with it, there were many rule changes. We were like kind of playing at 1999. I wasn't actively buying these cards. I didn't buy anything from Urza's block. I bought even very little like before that, Stronghold. I kind of
Yeah,
stopped.
we played Tempest and like yeah, we had pretty much stopped buying cards by like 98.
Yeah,
Stronghold, Exodus.
most of my booster purchases after revised were like Visions, Mirage, and then a little bit of Stronghold. I really
I think I
died
kept
off.
buying into Urza's block a little bit.
It would have been the best time to keep buying
Yeah.
in our playing time, and that's when I stopped
Yeah.
buying. That's right. I was like, I'm done. But when we would get together, we weren't playing as much in 1999. I felt like we weren't getting together and playing Magic as often. If we were getting together, it was more D&D. And I definitely wasn't paying attention to rules changes, right? This
Mhm.
was also the summer of 1999. This is like right before we went away to college. We weren't really
Yeah.
getting together that summer and playing. So 6th edition, there were many rule changes, and I was not keeping up on this at all. I was just playing Magic the way I had always played it. If I got my deck out. With the 6th edition rules, at the end of turn meant the beginning of the end of turn step.
Mhm.
So if it said something happened at the end of turn, it triggered at the beginning and before the end of turn was actually done. But after those triggers were checked, you could play cards like that and then keep them until the next end of turn. The current rule book, I looked into it and it clarifies what is meant by at the end of turn. That's section 513.1a of the current rules book. It says previously, abilities that triggered at the beginning of the end step were printed with the trigger condition at end of turn. So every time you see that on an old card, it really means at the beginning of the end of turn step. Cards that were printed with that text have received errata in the Oracle card reference to say at the beginning of the end step or at the beginning of the next end step. So now they clarify. They don't just say at end step. They clarify at the beginning of the end step, or if it's meant to last, they say at the beginning of the next end step.
Mhm.
I actually looked up the current Oracle text for Waylay, and it's even more clear now. The current Oracle text for Waylay has even different language that says create 3/2/2 white creature tokens, exile them at the beginning of the next cleanup step, which is after the end step. So it's very clear that you can't play it after end of turn triggers are checked without it then being cleared off the board at the cleanup step. I think there was even some intermediate phase where they gave different errata language to this card to clarify that it needed to be played in the combat step. But that has
Uh,
obviously now been superseded because I see different Oracle text that says exile them at the beginning of the next cleanup step.
okay.
But back to 99 when the card read at end of turn in back to this Flores article. So because of this, because of the fact that it said at end of turn and these triggered effects went on the stack at the beginning of the end of turn step, because of this, a rules lawyer bent on perverting the intention of a card and the game itself in favor of the clearly insufficient letter of the law so as to gain an advantage could play Waylay at end of turn after all at end of turn abilities had already gone onto the stack. So again, since end of turn triggers were checked at the beginning of the end of turn, you simply cast Waylay after the triggers are checked, and then you get to keep them into your combat step. Therefore, the knights would start play on his side for this next turn, and because of that, be ready to attack. The tokens would disappear at the end of the next turn, sure, but by then they would have already served as an essentially 6-power, nigh hasty white analog to Ball Lightning for the bargain price of 2 colorless, 1 white. And Waylay would become the core of the short-lived White Lightning archetype. So there was a short period of time where people could take advantage of the language on this card and the way the rules were structured in 1999 to cast this on your opponent's turn, keep them in your combat step, and then attack with them. So now that I've explained all this, hopefully clearly, here was another quote from Kyle Rose in this Trakemo domain video. He said it was a stupid rule, and that's a good reason to get rid of it. So I like to hear a rules lawyer say that, because sometimes I hear about these decks, and it's like the card should not work that way. The card should not work that way, especially when you see a card like Waylay, and the intention of the designers was very clear, but there was this loophole in the rules at the time that allowed people to take advantage and play it in a way that it wasn't intended to play it. I'm glad they quickly, resolved that issue. They quickly changed the language because it was a stupid rule. We're going to look into the White Lightning decks. I also say this as I'm going to say something different as a White Weenie player. I wish I had some explosiveness available to me in White Weenie and Premodern. But,
Yeah, I mean, it would be great if a card like this, existed.
But to contextualize before I get into the decks, this period in 1999, it was post-Imperial Armor and pre-Rebels White Weenie. So we've talked about the Imperial Armor White Weenie decks, right? Came just a little bit before this. It gave additional explosiveness to the white decks, the White Weenie decks. You could, strap an Imperial Armor on the deck and get through, especially with shadow creatures, for a lot of damage. It allowed the White Weenie decks in that meta to outrun some of the slower combo decks that were crushing everything else at the time. We saw white Imperial Weenie beat Prosploom. Okay. And then we've talked about some of the Rebels decks. Those came a little bit after, where the Rebels cards that were printed in Mercadian Mass gave you the ability to chain together all of these Rebel tutor effects to bring out like a critical mass of Rebels cards that other creature-based decks just couldn't beat. This one, Waylay, just gave an additional level of explosivity to the White Weenie deck, and it's like the reddest white deck. I think when I see this deck, I think of it as like the reddest white deck I've ever seen. Maybe just because people have called this the White Ball Lightning, so I have that red deck in my head.
Yeah.
But it really allows it to play like a red deck.
And the art has red in it. Longbow Archer has some red in it. I feel like a few cards have red art here.
That's true. So it's a full-on aggro deck. It was all creatures, anthem spells, and 4 disenchants. That's pretty much the deck. That's the deck. Mike Flores went on to say, with Crusade or Glorious Anthem in play, Waylay could be set to not just 6 damage. This is also really important. Already stronger in the abstract than Ball Lightning because it splits it up across 3 creatures, so you can't have the whole thing blocked, right?
Mm-hmm.
But 9, 12, or even more aggregate power if you have the anthem effects out. White Weenie has historically been weak in formats where its creature rush is halted by Wrath of God or the like, but the White Lightning decks of US Nationals 99 could set up at the end of turn after any sorcery speed removal had already been spoken for. So that's important too. One of the things that I have to worry about when I'm playing White Weenie or any, Weenie-based deck is you want to outrun your opponent, but you also don't want to overcommit to the board, especially if they're playing board wipes with like Wrath of God or Pernicious Deed. So it's like there's this tension between trying to make sure you can kill your opponent before they bring out their heavier hitters, their higher casting cost cards, that if they hit the board, you're not going to be able to end the game. You're going to get overwhelmed. So you want to try to run fast enough, but you also don't want to overcommit to the board, empty your whole hand, and get taken out by a board wipe that you're not going to be able to recover from. You don't have to worry about that with the White Lightning deck. He also says, with Mastercore and Curse Scroll to mop up either blockers or those last few points of damage, this era's Imperial Armorless, abeyance-free, and pre-Rebels White Weenie deck may in fact have been the most effective to grace the top tables of US Nationals. So I want to take a look now at the 2 White Lightning decks that made the top 10 at US Nationals in 99. We'll start with the one that came in think fourth place, third or fourth place. This is Stephen McArthur's White Lightning, and it has 24 creatures. We have 4 longbow archers, 4 mother runes, 4 resistant fighters, 4 Soltari monks, 4 Soltari priests, and 4 soul wardens. The longbow archer, we've talked about on the show before. This is a favorite of mine, but I haven't been running it in Premodern because I face fewer flyers in Premodern than I did back in the day, it seems like. But I'm actually bringing it back. I'm bringing it back because I'm seeing more Moneyball Black in Premodern. There's going to be more hippies coming my way, and this is an effective blocker of Hypnotic Specters to try to protect my hand. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping this works for me.
I like this card a lot. I have it in my white and red deck.
The Mother of Runes. This is a card that I'm always going back and forth about. People love it. I hear it talked about a lot. Great, great card. And White Weenie, I'm constantly thinking about taking it out of my deck and switching it for something with more power and or toughness. Because I always wanted there to like, I was running an Imperial Armor style White Weenie deck for a long time. And I had this idea in my head that I was going to play a Mother of Runes. Then I was getting my Shadow creature out and then strap an Imperial Armor on it and then just attack through for a lot of shadow damage and protect my creature with the Mother. It just never worked. Never. Never. The Mother of Runes always got wiped off the board. And you might say, well, then the Mother, when she has summoning sickness, she eats removal that your opponent then doesn't have available for the next creature that you bring out that you really want to use to deal damage. But I always feel myself wishing I had like a 2 toughness creature out or something that I just wanted to attack with, maybe deal a point of damage or 2 before it gets removed. Because that's the other thing. I would bring the Mother out and it's like, okay, what am I doing with this card? I want to use it to protect something bigger I bring out later. So it would just sit there.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think many times it'd be better if I just had a 1/1 to deal a few points of damage with before it got removed. It would just sit there out. Worthless. I think that's controversial. People love the Mother of Runes.
Well, I mean, I think you have a good point. It probably ends up being, more deck dependent. Certain decks are going to appreciate it more.
I haven't loved it in just an aggressive style pre-modern era White Weenie deck. I haven't loved it. Resistance Fighter. This is a card that I remember from Visions. I like this a lot. Just doesn't make my decks. 1 white, 1/1. Summon soldier, sacrifice resistance fighter. Target creature deals no combat damage this turn. So it's like a limited 1 creature fog. I like it. It's just pretty cool. Not strong enough to see play in Premodern though.
Yeah, I'm trying to think like where I'd use it, but I do like it too. I like things with utility like that. Maybe a fun like cube card or something.
Yeah, it's cute. It's nice to combat an opposing ball lightning, but I can't think of like why else I would want to necessarily have it in there. 4 Soltari Monk, full Soltari Priest for the invasion, which you see a lot in White Weenie ever since Tempest was printed. And then 4 Soul Warden, which is 1 white, 1/1. Summon Cleric whenever any other creature comes into play, gain 1 life. I see this in a lot of old lists. I'm often tempted to try it out, but it's hard to know like what to swap it with. It's never made the cut for me.
I've been fixing to make a Soul Warden deck, but I don't know how I'm going to do it yet.
I don't know how I'm going
Some
to do it
kind of
either.
life gain deck in general,
Yeah.
but I do like this card. I think it's cool.
It feels like the only kind of deck that this should go in, at least in pre-modern, is a deck that's focused around life gain. But then how much life do you really gain from Soul Warden unless you do, I don't know what you do with it. Maybe like a
Yeah,
big
you have to
mana
make sure you're
generation.
playing a lot of other creatures,
Yeah.
you know.
And then big mana generation into like a Decree of Justice or something that generates a lot of 1/1s and you gain a lot of life from it. But then is that still just like a win more? Because if you can generate like 11 1/1s or something with a
I
Decree
was
of
sort of
Justice, you're
thinking
probably winning
about
the game anyways.
I was thinking about having it as sort of like it and some other cards as like mitigation from decks that use a lot of your own life, you know? So it's kind of like resource generation for you.
Okay.
But I don't know.
And it's not bad against like a red deck or something where, just gaining a few points of life can give you enough edge to close out the game. But I also don't know either. I haven't put much thought into like exactly what kind of deck the Soul Warden would be best in. There might be something out there. But just in like your standard White Weenie deck, I think there's just better things to run in pre-modern. But we saw it here within a more limited card pool, 1999 standard. There's 8 instants in this deck, 4 disenchants, because why not? And then 4 Waylay,
Okay.
critical card in the deck. You got to have the Waylay. Artifacts, there are 4 Cursed Scrolls. I never want to play more than like 1 or 2. You know, many Moneyball blacklists I've seen play like 3. 4 seems like a lot. 4 is a good way to, of course, increase the odds that you're going to see one in a game. And if you think it's critical to at least see 1 Cursed Scroll, that's great. But also, you don't necessarily want to see more than 1. You can't,
Yeah.
you're not going to, it's hard to activate more than 1 Cursed Scroll.
Yeah. Although they
Uh,
might be destroying it and you need to replace the one they've destroyed.
yeah,
I'm
I mean,
trying to think.
they do get targeted.
I'm trying to think back to slide decks I've seen, and I want to say I feel like they run 3 or 4.
3. I see a lot of I see a lot with 3.
3. Okay.
I guess if you're like the Curse Scroll is a critical part, it's critical for me to deal. Is a critical component of my damage dealing plan.
Yeah.
I guess it's good to have 3 because, like you said, they are target for removal, especially when you really want to see one in a deck where you don't play many other artifacts. Almost everybody main boards, especially in pre-modern, because of the number of powerful enchantments and artifacts. Everybody main boards artifact removal. If the scroll's your only target, it's going to get removed right away. Not bad to have backups, but
Yeah.
I don't know. 4 Cursed Scrolls, great card. Card I hate to face. 4 always seems like a lot to me. And then enchantments, 4 Glorious Anthem. So this is the most surprising part of this deck to me, actually. The 4 Glorious Anthem. I expected more anthems. Crusade is legal at this time. So he's playing the 3 mana Anthem effect instead of the 2 mana Anthem effect. The benefit of Glorious Anthem is it only gives the +1/+1 to the creatures you control, whereas Crusade gives the +1/+1 effect to all white creatures.
Mhm.
If there was a lot of White Weenie in the meta, he might be thinking to
Yeah.
himself, let me just play the Anthem. So when I spend mana and cast a spell to play an Anthem effect, I'm only benefiting my creatures, whereas my White Weenie opponents, they'll be playing their Crusades and benefiting their creatures as well as my creatures. So
Yeah.
maybe it was
And
like a mirror match play. I don't know.
yeah, I can see that. And there's no Crusades in the sideboard?
No.
Huh, okay.
But also, we see how much better Waylay can be with anthems. Like, I want to load up on anthems. So I expected more anthems. Not much to this deck other than creatures and disenchants. It needs to move fast. Anthems make it faster. Lands, 20 lands, and then in the sideboard, 2 Armageddons, 3 Erases, which is a card that I don't remember at all. It's 1 white, instant, remove target enchantment from the game. So it's just enchantment removal in Urza's Legacy. 4 Humilities. That's a lot of humilities, Alex. This is a card that is great. And I've actually considered it for my White Weenie deck. But, you know, Humility says each creature loses all abilities and is a 1/1 creature. You're really neutering your own White Weenie deck when you remove all the abilities from your creatures. Like then you're just you're playing a deck full of vanilla 1/1s and 2/2s.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's for when they have like fewer bigger creatures that you're having trouble dealing with, and
It
then
would
you
have
have
to be.
more 1/1s than they do.
Yeah. Try to think in the, like let's say a dreadnought match, for instance. I don't want to bring this in against a dreadnought in a dreadnought match because it's 4 mana. It's going to get count. You're never going to be able to play it.
Be
You're never going to be able to
slower,
play
yeah.
it because of dread. But let's just say, you know, let's pretend like you could get it on the board. Uh, yeah, a deck that you're playing against has a win con to bring out one or two giant creatures against your weenie horde. This does really level the playing field and allow you to overrun them, to go wider than them.
Mhm.
A deck that wants to go over you, you eliminate their ability to run you over, and then you go wider than them. Terravore, for instance. I'm trying to think what pre-modern deck I might want to bring this in against if I'm playing White Weenie.
Mhm.
I don't want to do goblins and elves because I think those decks still go wider than me.
Elves, yeah, but I don't know about, I mean, you know the goblin meta better than me, but there's at least certain types of goblin decks that maybe are focused on building up some of them and not having as many, right?
Not having as many. Uh, you know what? Maybe it still is good against goblins. Goblins, trying to remember exactly how many goblins most people run. Probably over 20 still, or around
And
that
this is
number.
Urza's block too. Or
Yeah.
so are we talking about like as an Urza's block card or as like a
I'm talking right now, I'm talking about pre-modern as a pre-modern card. So I'm thinking about like myself, because I've thought about putting this in my pre-modern White Weenie sideboard. Goblins. They do run a lot of goblins, but the abilities of the goblins are probably better than just like my shadow ability,
see,
for
that's
instance.
what I was thinking, like your Goblin Matron or Goblin Pile Driver or losing their abilities.
Yeah. Your ringleader, which gives them their card advantage, losing their ability.
Yeah, yeah. So if you get that down early, then they don't get their card advantage.
They don't get their card advantage. The siege gang commander. Not only can they not fling goblins at you or your creatures to deal 2 damage, they don't even generate the 3 additional goblin tokens that come into play when the siege
Oh,
gang
okay.
commander is
Okay,
attacked.
that's a good
So
point.
there's
Yeah.
further erosion of their card advantage. So I don't know. It'd be interesting. I don't know exactly how it all work out because then you don't have your color protection, you don't have your first strike, you don't have your shadow. Still, the ringleader ability is probably better than those abilities. The siege gang commander ability is better than those abilities.
Yeah.
The
And you
pile
get to
driver.
pick when to play the humility. So you could like
Yeah.
benefit from your first strike for a while, like before you use it,
Yeah.
when things start to get out of hand or whatever.
So interesting. I don't know. I never know how to think about whether or not I should try to sideboard humility.
Yeah.
But for humility in this deck, curious to know exactly what he brings it in against in this time period, 99. I'm not entirely sure yet. And then for pariahs, this
I just
is
grabbed one of these. It was cheap.
I did too. I think I just bought two. Well, they haven't arrived yet, but I just bought two. Because I was looking at this deck and I was like, I should pick up a couple pariahs. They're, like you said, they're not expensive right now. Two colorless, one white, and I love the art.
Yeah, art's good.
Enchant creature from Urza's Saga. Redirect to enchanted creature, all damage dealt to you. So it's a nice sideboard card against different decks. Anytime you're running White Weenie, you have, well, one, you have the Mother of Runes, so you can get protection from any color,
Yeah.
and then redirect anything, any
And
damage done to you to it, and tap it to suck up the damage. And then you also, when you run a White Weenie, you usually have creatures with at least pro red or pro black.
yeah. And you know, that's I just want to point out too that like that's immediately what I thought of as like a defense. There's all these cards in white that redirect damage, or you have like maybe creatures that don't die and you can let use them as a damage soak or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you can also kind of use it offensively isn't the right word, but it doesn't have to be your creature. So you can use it on your opponent's creature, right?
Redirect to enchant creature, all damage dealt to you. Yeah. Why did I not think that when I look at this card? But
Well, because it's an enchantment. Usually you put enchantment on your own creature, you know?
yeah,
But I think, yeah, that's why I bought it.
of
Because,
course.
I mean, I was looking through someone else's card. I was like buying something else from them and looking at what else I wanted to add. And I
Yeah.
saw this and I was like, it doesn't specify.
No, it doesn't. So it doesn't help against like, well, I'm wrong. I was gonna say it doesn't help against like Dreadnought, but it does. You take the Dreadnought damage when they attack, and then you redirect it to itself. Redirect to enchant creature, all damage dealt to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice. Why don't people play it in Premodern? Well, one, you have STPs available to you. You have Kurtar's Desire, which doesn't kill their creature, but prevents it from attacking. You have a few other things that are
I
similar
mean,
to this that I'm not thinking of, but they don't cost 3 mana.
yeah, it's probably a little clunky, and
Yeah.
it might not always help you so much depending on what their creature package is.
I also got to point out, you noticed in the instance, there are no Swords to Plowshares here.
I did notice that.
No, not a single Swords to Plowshare. It wasn't printed in fifth or sixth edition, so
Okay,
it wasn't.
I was just gonna say we've run into this before where yeah. And I said earlier we were talking about this tournament, but I guess it probably would have just been just Urza's block and like whatever the main set was, sixth or seventh edition. Because
Uh, I meant
it was a standard tournament, right?
correct. I
And I'm
meant to
not
pull.
sure how they did that back then, but since it was on the block system, I'm guessing it was just the block, like that block.
Yeah, but it was a lot of cards. I meant to pull up the standard timeline, and I had it pulled up just the other day,
My bad, I'm muddying the waters here.
and I forgot to put it in the show notes. Let me just do this. Standard timeline. Standard timeline MTG Wiki,
Ah,
1999. It was sixth edition. So it depends exactly on the month this tournament was played, but I believe it was played around June or July. Soon after sixth edition was printed. So we'll look at 1999 June. There's April 1999 with his fifth edition, uh, Tempest block, Urza's block.
oh, okay, so that's bigger than I thought.
And then there's June 1999, sixth edition, also Tempest block and some of Urza's block, Urza's
Yeah.
Saga and Urza's Legacy. Okay, so I said it's Urza's block. It's not true. Just Urza's Saga and Urza's Legacy. So that's what was available at the time. Uh, but STP was not printed in fifth and sixth edition. These are things that I always forget. We've talked about this before. Swords to Plowshares and Lightning Bolt are just like, in my mind, evergreen magic cards. Like there is no
Mhm.
magic without Lightning Bolt and STP. And then I'm continuously reminded there are periods of time after which we started doing most of our playing where these things weren't actually standard legal. They weren't printed in the main set. So no Swords to Plowshares. So that's going to change your package of cards available to you severely to deal with your opponent's creatures. He also ran 2 Wrath of God. Sometimes with a White Weenie deck, you just run into creature decks that just go wider than you. And it actually makes sense to kind of sandbag a little bit, not put everything on the board, and then Wrath. Final thoughts on this deck, Alex?
I like it. I mean, I'm not sure if there's, like you said, it's pretty straightforward. So I don't know if there's much else to add. We already talked about the most, interesting part, which was the Waylay thing. We talked about the Anthem effects, and the Curse Scroll. But it's cool. It's nice, like simple, straightforward deck. Looks like it'd be fun to play at the same time.
Nice to play in a tournament, too. Not that taxing mentally.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to stay focused throughout an entire tournament. You're still going to need to make right decisions,
Hmm.
but not as complicated as many other decks that you can choose to play. My final thought is needs more anthems. That's like the one thing that I'd say about this deck. Needs more anthems. You get such a boost to your Waylay when you have an anthem spell down. You want to maximize anthems. So the next deck, also White Lightning. This is the one that came in first place, piloted by Kyle Rose. His deck is a little bit different. 26 creatures as opposed to 24 creatures. So he upped the creature package. Again, you have 4 Longbow Archer. And then he comes in with 2 Masticore. I kind of like the Masticore here. It gives the I don't normally put Masticore in decks like this that don't have any sort of card draw engine because you have to pitch. You have to pitch cards to keep the Masticore in play. It's also not a big mana generation deck. You just have your 20 lands. You have no ability to ramp, no ability to generate huge huge amounts of mana to funnel into the Master Core to really clear their board. But I think this is a pretty good include in a meta where White Weenie doesn't have Source of Plowshares available to it.
Mhm.
Because you don't necessarily need to keep it around all that long for it to do what you need to do, which is maybe just like clear one creature off the board on the other side that you can't deal with because you
Yeah,
don't
and
have SDP evade.
if you're setting up your Waylay attack, you've used the mana for that on the previous turn, so
It's a good point.
you have mana free to cast a Masticore and use it in the turn that you're going to be using your Waylay Knights.
So two Master Core, that was different. Four Mother Runes, four Soltari Foot Soldiers. So this is what he's running instead of the Resistance Fighter. He goes more aggressive.
Mhm.
The Resistance Fighter is like a one-time single creature fog. He says, fuck that. I'm going straight to your face. Puts a Soltari Foot Soldier in. It's 1/1 shadow, one white.
I do like 3 foot soldiers and 1 resistance fighter.
Okay. Soltari Priest, four Soul Warden. And then instead of Soltari Monks, he runs four Warrior Encore.
Oh, okay.
So this is 2 white, 2/2. Pay 0. Redirect 1 damage from Warrior Encore to a creature you control. This is one of those creatures that you mentioned not that long ago, just when we were talking about the previous deck. It's available to you in white that you can use to redirect damage around. Always nice when you have Soltari Priest, which has protection from red, and Mother Runes, which allows you to give protection from colors to a target creature that you control. So Warrior Encore. I like this because you can attack into blockers and then move the damage around and still keep your creature around. Also, you can attack with other things and then just keep him there as a blocker and then redirect the damage around. It's nice. It requires your opponent to think a little bit more during the combat
Yeah.
steps, so they can always trip up. You can get away with things. 8 instants, 4 disenchant, 4 waylay, so the instant package is the same, and then 6 enchantments, 4 crusades, and 2 glorious anthems. I think this is probably, I don't know, I didn't see how the whole tournament played out, but I'd be surprised if this wasn't a key reason why this deck did a little bit better than the other White Lightning deck. I think it's important to really pack your deck with more of these anthem effects to take full advantage of Waylay. I mean, if you
Yeah,
have
I think I agree with you. I like having more than 4.
yeah,
Um,
if you get
I
2
can see.
crusades or just 2 anthem effects on the board, you're swinging for 12 when you cast a single Waylay.
Mhm.
That's big. 20 lands, all planes, and then the sideboard is 2 Allay, Allay, Allay. How do you pronounce that?
Light,
Allay.
I think.
One colorless, one white, instant. Destroy target enchantment has a buyback of 3 colorless. One Armageddon, one Erase, which we saw in the last deck. 3 Field Surgeons, one colorless, one white, 1/1 Cleric. Tap an untapped creature you control. Prevent the next 1 damage to target creature this turn. 3 Humility, 2 Worship. This is a card that I played a lot when I was first building my Imperial White Weenie deck, right? I was often had one in the sideboard, or sorry, one in the main, and then I would move it to the sideboard and just bring it in against like red decks. And I'd always be like, if I can just, I'm just going to get a Soltari Priest on the board and then Wonder, and then I'm going to win the game. And it just never worked. So I was like, I think I just want to have more creatures in the deck. It just never worked for me. That's not
Mm.
true. It did work once. I remember one time I was like, yeah, great. But didn't work as often as I wish it did. 2 Wrath of God, and then back to this 1 planes. I don't know why he has 1 planes in the sidebar. This is very confusing to me. What am I missing? Is that weird, Alex?
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
Is there like a real, is there a good reason for
Maybe when he brings the humilities in, he wants more mana available.
Maybe.
Still
Yeah,
seems
okay.
like a odd, yeah, it's like a side, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Odd seems like an odd choice, but yeah, I'm looking at the cards in the main board here. Everything is 1 to 3 casting costs except for your 2 master cores.
Mhm.
But if you go to the sideboard, Armageddon is 4, 3 humilities cost 4, the 2 worships cost 4, and the 2 wrath of gods cost 4.
Yeah, and if
So
you're gonna Armageddon, maybe you want an extra land around,
yeah,
but
so a lot of the cards that he might bring in is from a sideboard do increase the casting cost of the deck significantly. So maybe, yeah, if maybe there's some rule that he's following here where he's like, if I bring in X number of 4 casting cost cards, I also have to bring in additional planes.
yeah,
So
that's
that
my
could be it.
best guess. I don't know.
I mean, that's a reasonable guess. That sounds pretty good actually. So final thoughts on this deck. This took down the tournament. I think perfect amount of anthems. I like the Master Core in a format that doesn't include the SDP. So I think these are both really good changes, in my opinion. Any final thoughts, Alex, on this white laning deck? Also pretty straightforward. Also
Yeah,
very
I like it
aggressive.
too. I think I agree with you. I mean, the Master Core versus the Cursed Scroll are like kind of similar, you know. So, I'm looking at that same same issue with
That
my
is
one
that is
deck.
very true.
Um,
You're
I
lacking the
would
scroll on this one.
I kind of like what you were saying with the Anthem effects though about Crusade being less good in the mirror match. Um, so he has six, maybe go like four, uh, and two the opposite way.
4 Glorious Anthem, 2 Crusade.
Yeah, or three and three, or maybe have some of one of them in the sideboard so that you can like tinker with that ratio if you're playing against another
Yeah,
list.
that actually would be a good swap for the mirror match.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's my only
reasonable.
thought. But overall, I
Reasonable.
like it. Yeah.
Okay. I'm also seeing, Masticore, Urza's Destiny, right? Field Surgeon in the sideboard, Urza's Destiny. When I looked at the standard timeline earlier.
I think maybe you didn't go down far enough. Maybe there.
Yeah. It said Tempest, Stronghold, Exodus, Urza's Saga, Urza's Legacy, 6th edition. So is there another change that happened in 1999? July 1999.
Yeah.
Urza's Destiny. Okay.
Yeah.
I just had to scroll down one. So this deck, this tournament, and there's November 1999 also, but by November, Tempest block has rotated out, and you're starting to see Mercadian masks rotate in. So this tournament must have been played July,
Between July
August,
and November.
September, or October. And if I read further down in this paragraph, US Nats and Canadian Nats in July,
Okay.
Worlds in August. Popular decks, July 1999 in Standard, Wildfire, Green Stompy, LD Red, probably Land Destruction Red, Mono
Uh,
Black Control, Zvi Bargain. That must have been the deck that we saw here called Phantom Menace, which ran 4 Yawgmoth's Bargain, I'm
okay.
guessing. And it's
Good
piloted
job.
by Zvi. Maybe this is also called Zvi's Bargain. We'll figure that out in a future episode. If that's the case, I like the name Phantom Menace more. It's just cool. I mean, it sounds more intimidating, right? Veggie Panza, White Weenie, Living Death, Enchantress.
So he was talking about playing limited, like limited portion of the tournament. I wonder
Yeah.
if they, typically do this where like they're structuring it so that like at the nationals, like there's a brand new set that has just come out, and then that way there's like a fresh limited experience and the like, the constructed is like pretty fresh too because it's a new set
Yeah,
and vice versa.
I don't know enough about this because I haven't really done deep reading on how these tournaments are structured, but and I can't remember, if Worlds and Nationals were both like this, if Nationals was always like this. I know we were talking about a tournament in an older episode. We came across a situation like this where there were, multiple rounds, some were draft, followed by constructed.
Mhm.
I think nationals was like that always. I really don't know. I shouldn't say though.
But yeah, I was just wondering, yeah, because it sort of seemed like from piecing that together, like that, Urza's Destiny would have like just come out here.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, that's all.
It also seems like people first realized the Waylay trick at this time. You know, the story was that he saw somebody do it in limited. Reading some of these old articles, it sounds like it's even possible the person he first saw do it was Mike Flores, too. First saw that trick from Mike Flores. Or somebody who saw Mike Flores pull off the Waylay trick told Kyle Rose. I don't know if Mike was the first one to do it though. I saw somebody else's name too that they attributed the figuring this out to. It was another player, but Flores was an early person to do it. At least might have been the person that Kyle Rose saw do it at this
I
tournament.
thought the Kyle Rose quote that you had read earlier said, maybe I misheard it, but I thought he said that he saw in the limited play at that same tournament, like at the Nationals, was the way I interpreted it. But,
That is what I said.
okay.
Yeah,
And that made
that
me
is.
wonder how long they had to submit their deck list before the tournament back then. You know what I mean?
I don't know how that works either because
Or
like
if they
yeah,
even did that back
he
then.
said he didn't he came into the tournament not knowing what he was going to play
Hmm.
until he saw this. Anyways, questions I don't know the answer to, Alex. I don't know. But I guess why I brought that up is you said, maybe they structure these, they plan these for a time when a new set is about to come out. And Urza's Destiny obviously just came out like right around this time. But Urza's Saga was already around. Urza's Saga had been around so it was around in June 99,
And that's the set with Waylay.
April, yes, April
Okay.
99. It was illegal in March 1999, January 1999, November 1998. So Urza's Saga must have come out right around the end of 1998. And maybe it took a while for people to realize that Waylay could be played uh, right there at the end of turn after the end of turn triggers were checked.
Yeah, or maybe that was that rules change then after the Urza Saga
That's right.
release.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I led with all that too, talking about how in 1999 the rules changed. That happened in June.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. So only about a month and a half or whatever since that had changed.
Rules changed, sixth edition. Because back in April, the standard timeline says fifth edition. And then you get to June 1999, we have sixth edition, and then the rules changes. Spells and combat damage go on the stack. Still trying to figure that out. Interrupts become instants. Still trying to figure
Dun,
that
dun,
out.
dun.
That's easy to figure out. Mana abilities cannot be countered. Mana spells can. Triggered abilities clarified. So this little phrase here, triggered abilities clarified. This is probably related in some way to this Waylay rules loring and triggered abilities when they actually go on or when they're checked during the end of turn. Anyways, I like these White Lightning decks. I wish I could play something like this in pre-modern. That's how I learned about White Lightning. I was looking for more aggressive White Weenie based decks. In pre-modern, I started with the Imperial Armor. Everybody knows there's cons to the Imperial Armor. I've suffered that con too many times, so I'm trying to move away from it, but it is really, really nice when you just curve out, cast an Imperial Armor on turn 3 and attack for a whole bunch of damage the next turn and end the game by turn 5. It's just almost never works out that way when you have so many Swords to Plowshares floating around in pre-modern and so many other even black removal spells now, like Smother and stuff. There's a lot of stuff that gets rid of your Imperial Armored shadow creature. There's just too many
Mhm.
things. It's really nice when it ends the game by turn 5.
Well, you got me with it once or twice, and it is
It happens.
capable of doing
Yeah,
some like work quickly
it happens.
if you haven't lost like too many hands from your cards from your hand.
But I got sick of that. I started looking for other aggro opportunities, and I found White Lightning. Unfortunately, it's not available to me. I can play Waylay, but I can only play it as a combat trick where I block. Block.
Yeah, I'm excited maybe about this because I'm always looking for like token generators to
Yes.
use for other nefarious purposes. So,
So I did buy a playset of Waylays recently. They're right over there. You can't see them. They're over there, over my desk, over on the desk over there. But I bought them for a deck where I wanted to generate tokens.
mhm. I could like use those for sacrificing maybe and white black or
Goblin Bombardment,
yeah,
baby.
Goblin Bombardment, that
I've
sort of
been
thing.
wanting to play a Goblin Bombardment deck, and I'm like, I got something I'm working on. I'm going to bring it out to some meetups, and I think it can be pretty solid. Just, deck that takes some games here and there. Maybe if I can go 50-50 with it, I'll be very happy because it's
Dude,
playing two cards that I really wanted to play for a long time: Goblin Bombardment and Goblin Trenches.
okay.
I'll just say that. Just say that.
I can't remember what Goblin Trenches does.
It's an enchantment, one colorless, one white, one red, and you can pay two colorless and sacrifice a land to generate two 1/1 goblin
Ah,
soldiers,
okay.
I
All right.
believe.
So we're
Did I get
pumping
that
out
right?
some gobblies.
Yeah. Pumping out the goblies to attack with, block with, added the blue, and then maybe fling at your opponent with Goblin Bombardment.
Do you have any like spell duplicating effects like for your Waylay so that you sort of like fork it, even though there's no fork in pre-modern?
No.
Ah, I'd like to see something like that.
What would I have for that other
I
than.
don't think there is. I just mean, yeah.
So I bought this card, and there's this card. I haven't played this deck against you for a very long time. I built it and I fiddled with it a little bit. I need to do some more fiddling with it because it does play some cards that I really like that I want to play. I have a it was a words of not wilding, words of wisdom, green white control deck. And it ran Mirari at some point. The deck started because I just wanted to play Mirari's Wake, and then I saw Mirari and
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to play Mirari too. And it was a life gain deck with that white green life gain spell that gives you 7 life when you cast
Yeah.
it. It's an instant. But there's Mirari, 5 colorless, legendary artifact. Whenever you play an instant or sorcery spell, you may pay 3 colorless. If you do, put a copy of that spell on the stack. You may choose new targets for that copy. So it's cool, but it's 5 casting cost. And really, to generate a lot of copies, you have to have the ability to generate a lot of mana, right?
Yeah.
Something that's hard to do in red and white. I don't know how you do that in red and white. You do it with Sarah Sanctum, maybe, but you have to run a lot of enchantments. It's easier in the red, white, green life gain deck that I was running because it's decrees and it has Guy's Cradle, but still, it's not easy to do. So I feel like I removed all the Miraris from the deck at this point.
Hmm.
There's this. I don't know of anything else that can generate copies of instants or sorceries. Mirari is very cool, but it's just expensive mana wise. Can't do that much with it. I am also running Battle Screeches in that deck. So,
What's the white medallion, not ruby medallion for red,
Pearl,
but
Pearl.
is it pearl medallion?
I don't know.
No, I don't think it is because I tried to look for that.
Pearl Medallion.
No, there it is. Yeah, you're right.
You
Thought
son
about
of a
something like
bitch.
that, like mana cost reducers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
I do have I have purchased a couple Pearl Medallions. Also, not a bad buy in pre-modern right now. Pearl
Yeah, there's
Medallions
been
were
several reprints.
Pearl Medallions are up to $40. Now they're current market price of $8.03. Have been reprints, including in Modern Horizons 3,
Yeah, that was the
which
recent one.
brought down the prices a lot. But still, if you're a pre-modern player who likes that original printing, the medallions are not bad buys right now at all. At least some of them. Sapphire medallion might have risen up in price
In
again.
fact, I thought I saw it like yesterday on the like trending up.
It is starting to trend up, yeah, but it's still far off. Its all-time high was around $50.
Yeah.
Now it's 14.59. Last week it was a lot cheaper, so maybe people are starting to target them now. The people who have been doing the targeted rolling buyouts in pre-modern are targeting the first perennial medallions now, potentially. Permodians. Yeah, I thought about the Permodians too. Uh, I'm still working on the deck, but it's going to be a little push and pull here about how many like mana reduction spells I want to run versus how many spells I want to run to actually generate the tokens to do the things
Yeah,
that I
yeah.
want to do. So, there's
I can
always
never fit medallions in my deck. I I try and I'm usually deciding not to put them in. I feel like they're pretty specific, pretty like I don't know, certain decks only.
I have 3 ruby medallions in a mono red goblins deck that I'm playing.
Oh, okay, cool.
This is a non-optimal goblins deck, but it's a goblins deck designed around Skirk Fire Marshal, which is the goblin. It's 2/2 protection from red. It's a high casting cost goblin, 3 colors, 2 red. So it's nice to be able to play it for less. And you play got 4 goblin war chiefs in the deck plus 3 ruby medallions. You have 7 cards that can reduce your spell's colorless cost by 1, right? And what I want to do with the deck is ramp out. So sorry, it's 2/2 protection from red. And if you tap 5 goblins, you deal 10 damage to everything.
Ah, yeah, okay.
Uh, I want to try to ramp out 5 goblins, one of which is a Skirk Fire Marshal, of course, one of which is a Mog Fanatic. Tap 5 goblins, deal 10 damage to everything, including to the Mog Maniac. If I said Fanatic earlier, I meant Mog Maniac, which then will deal 10 additional damage to my opponent. So it's just like it's kind of a goofy deck that I'm trying to build, but it's just a little bit more unique
I
than the
like that. I
traditional
think it's a
Goblins
cool
deck, and
idea.
it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun. My goal, if I get it to operate the way I want it to operate, my goal is not to necessarily win as many games as I would with a maybe a more optimized
Just
Goblins
not
deck. I
lose.
want to not lose. So I want to get it to the point where if I'm about to lose, most of the time I could just blow up everybody.
You
Mogmaniac
told
is
me that
dealt.
before. I remember you talking about this now.
Yeah. Whenever Mogmaniac is dealt damage, it deals an equal amount of damage to target opponent. 1/1. I don't know if I'd upset people if I brought it to a tournament because I just like forced them to draw games where they would have like beat me otherwise. And then they have a bunch of draws on their record and they don't do as
Yeah, I think that
well
would probably
in
make
the
them angry.
tournaments. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Like I
It's
wouldn't
just
get
it'd be like
angry.
wasted matches, you'd end up making people play like extra matches,
I don't know.
right? Wouldn't you?
Extra matches.
Like, isn't that how, like if you're playing someone and like you're tying them, don't you have to like play more until someone wins?
No, I don't
No?
think so.
Okay.
I
It's
mean, I
just
think you just do. I think if you have 3 games, like you would just, I think you,
like if you went like,
0-0-3. I think you would just go 0-0-3 and then you went on, and then you go on to the next round.
okay.
I don't think you have to win games to move to the next round.
Oh, okay.
I'm not a tournament organizer and I've
Me neither. And
never.
I know there's different rules, different types of
Yeah, yeah.
tournament structures. So
We're gonna play in our first real tournament like next weekend. So I
I'm
guess we'll.
terrified. I feel like I'm going to do something stupid and get accused of cheating.
You're not gonna get accused of cheating.
Well, I'm just gonna like forget to do something I'm supposed to do, like
Uh,
idiot.
People do that all the time. So I think there are going to be judges there.
Yeah, yeah.
If you forget to do something that you're supposed to do, like your opponent can always just call a judge, and then you just hash it out.
Okay.
And then you
That sounds
fist fight
reasonable.
and you flip over the table and you fist
Just
fight.
hash it out.
There's a minor disagreement about whether or not a trigger was checked at the appropriate time. You go outside, you put your fucking dukes up. You duke it out, bro. That's how we deal. You're not going to get accused of cheating.
I know. I just, like
Okay.
I'm just saying I'm, nervous about not doing everything right.
It's just Magic the Gathering. That's the good thing about that's the good thing about Magic the Gathering is it's just Magic the Gathering.
Yeah. You're right. You're always there to talk sense into me, Steve.
Anywho, we're on Mog Maniac now. We went on a little bit of a side quest there.
Yeah.
But we talked about the classic White Lightning decks. And then I talked about, how I found out about that. I was looking for more aggro white decks in Premodern. How would you do White Lightning in Premodern now? That's the next thing I want to talk about. Well, you can't play Waylay, right? Waylay's been neutered. So you just have to think, what is the most aggro white deck you can build in Premodern current day? Some people have been exploring that. They don't play Waylay. They don't play Imperial Armor. They don't even play Anthems. I've seen this deck called White Lightning in Premodern. I'm going to pull this one up. This one was sent to me by Wraith Zero on
I feel like this
Twitter.
would be like Decree of Justices or something.
This is Wraith Zero's White Lightning. That is also a good include that I don't see in these decks, but it's a reasonable include in these decks, actually. Ryan from Ohio sent us a deck like this months ago, I think. He was like, oh, this looks like an interesting mono white build. And I was like, oh, that does look like an interesting mono white build. And it is why I bought a playset of Haunted Angels. I just haven't sleeved up the deck yet, mostly because I'm afraid to play Haunted Angel. So
Is it spooky?
what is this deck? I'll tell you, it is
Oh,
spooky to me at least. I find it to be spooky. This deck is really a soul land deck. So the land package is important. This particular version is running
yeah.
24 lands, 18 plains, 4 ancient tombs, 2 city of traders. So we've seen decks like this. I have a deck like this in mono green that I'm playing right now,
Mm-hmm.
the mono green beefcake style deck. It's
Mm-hmm.
why I bought 4 cities of traders in gold borders, which again, Ryan from Ohio pointed out to us,
Five of the century.
potentially the best value in pre-modern gold border MTG at the moment. City of Traders from Exodus, current market price $443
Ouch.
and going up. The World Championship deck printing, there's only one of, by the way. Current market price $37.55. A tenfold differential. You don't
One
see that.
tenth of the price.
You don't see that in the highly playable reserve list pre-modern gold border market, especially for a card that's only in one world championship deck. You know, you'll
Yeah,
see
that's
it in
crazy.
you'll see it for Curse Scrolls because Curse Scrolls in like 6 or 7 world championship decks. There's a lot of printing. So, anyways, I bought the City of Traders, been running them in mono green beefcake, and I want to run them in actually this deck. I just haven't sleeved it up yet. So it's a soul land deck, and you have these soul lands in the deck to ramp out the biggest impact white creatures that you possibly can. So, what does White Lightning look like in pre-modern these days? Well, maybe it looks like a soul land deck that casts 2 colorless, 1 white creatures that are that have a higher power toughness stats than your typical White Weenie creature. This deck runs 23 creatures, so 4 Exalted Angels. This is really like this is the best top deck for your white aggro style decks and pre-modern. So it runs 4 of them, of course, 4 colorless, 2 white. With your soul land package, you're better able to deal, to ramp this out. And since you can gain life, it also helps you mitigate the damage that you do to yourself with the 4 ancient tombs.
Good point.
I'm also scared of running 4 ancient tombs all the time.
Yeah.
And
I
my
bet it feels
beefcake,
good when you get those exalted angels down.
my beefcake, I actually run 4 City Traders, 2 ancient tombs, I think, is what I have right now.
Hmm.
Haunted Angel. So this is 1 white, 2 colorless. This is the kind of card you're looking to play in the pre-modern white lightning spells. Plains, Soul Land, played on turn 2. This is 3/3 flying. That's nice. It's a nice creature to get out on turn 2. But when Haunted Angel is put into a graveyard from play, you remove it from the game, and each other player puts a 3/3 black angel creature token with flying into play. So what I'm afraid of is you play this on turn 2, you're like, ha ha ha, and then your opponent kills it, and then they have a 3/3 flyer on their side of the board, and they're like, ha ha ha, ha ha
I understand.
ha. So I don't know. It's a nice card, maybe if your opponent's only removal is STP. I almost want to sideboard this and just bring him in
If they're,
for the
yeah, just
matches where
running
my opponent's
STPs.
removal is STP. I would hate to have this lightning bolted, right? You're playing Sly or Burn. You're playing against Sly or Burn. Cast this on turn 2 for the end of your turn. Opponent lightning bolts it. They start with a 3/3 flyer and then their Jackal Pup that they played first turn.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck. F me in the A, Alex. Karmic Guide, 3 colorless, 2 white, 2/2, flying, protection from black. It has Echo. When Karmic Guide enters the battlefield, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So bring something big back. You can't even bring your Haunted Angels back because it's removed from the game.
Yeah.
2 Mother of Runes, 4 Savannah Lions, 4 Silver Knights. So this is a traditional weenie package. And then you have another creature, 1 white, 2 colorless, Soltari Champion. Shadow
Ah,
2/2. When it attacks, all other creatures you control get +1/+1 to end a turn.
I like that one.
Sorcery, you have your Battle Screech. So with your Soul Land out, you could potentially play this on turn 3. 2 colorless, 2 white.
Yes, I like that.
Create 2/1/1 white bird creature tokens with flying, flashback, tap 3 untapped white creatures you control.
Because the other one has like double X mana cost, right? And no. Oh, wait, I mean, I guess that would still help you, so it doesn't matter.
By the other one, you mean Decree of Justice?
Yes.
Yeah,
It's,
it
what
is
is it, white,
XX.
white X?
White, white
Or,
2 or white, white 1? I'll just look it up.
sorry, I'm going to take you off track.
But is XX.
White, white, two colorless, and 2X. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, white, white, 2 colors, 2X.
But
But
either way,
most of the time people cycle it. So you can think of it as 2 color. If you just want to generate
okay,
one
right.
ones the way you do with the Battle Screech, 1 white, 2 colorless, and then X.
So that's nice with your soul lands.
It is nice, but most of your soul lands are ancient tombs, so you're going to be taking 2 damage to generate 2/1/1.
Yeah.
I don't know. I also don't love this token generation in the absence of anthem spells, which this deck doesn't run any anthem
Oh,
spells.
yeah.
I mean, battle creatures really brutal when you have an anthem spell out and you've created 4/4 4/2/2 flyers, right? It's less devastating when you've generated 4/1/1 flyers. Still good. And then he runs 4 Swords to Plowshares, 1 Aura Silence, 4 Parallax Wave. This is really how you deal with creatures. Easier for you to cast when you have the Soul Lands, and then 2 Seal of Cleanse. So this has done well in some tournaments. You can see it on TC decks, builds like this. But if I'm going to play a Soul Land deck, you just have more explosive power available to you in other colors, like the 1 white, 2 colorless, or 2 white, 2 colorless spells are just less impactful in white than they are in Beefcake, mono green Beefcake. But there are some pros to playing white instead of green. I mean, the mono green Beefcake decks, they're either like no disruption or you're using Tangle Wire for disruption. Whereas with
Mm.
white, you still have available to you good enchantment removal, the best creature removal in the game, and Swords to Plowshares. And then you also have Parallax Wave, which is a beautiful card. You don't have those available to you in uh, mono green.
I'm trying to look for other things that like help with the I'm sorry, it's so small now I can't see. What's the shadow angel?
Haunted Angel.
Haunted angel.
It doesn't have shadow,
I'm
but
like
yeah.
still looking for, yeah. I'm still looking for something that like helps with that or works with it. Like parallax wave, you could remove your haunted angel from the game as an instant to protect it if it's about to get killed, right?
You could,
Okay. And
but you have to have your Parallax Wave out before. So then
yes,
you lose the
yes.
ability to like ramp out Haunted Angel on turn 2. But maybe you don't care about that. Maybe you hold
Um,
back.
and then I don't know how, I know if you send a token to the graveyard, it ceases to exist. But if you parallax wave, like if your haunted angel died and they got the 3/3 black angel, and I parallaxed waved it, would that destroy it or would it come back into play?
That's a good question. I actually don't know what happens when you target a token like that.
Yeah, if it goes to the graveyard, I know it dies, but I'm just wondering because Parallax Wave takes it out and brings it back in,
Yeah,
if that might. But if that doesn't happen, then you could use the Parallax Wave to get rid of the 3/3 black thing that they put out.
yeah. When Parallax Wave leaves play, each player returns to play all cards he or she owns removed from the game with
Oh,
Parallax Wave. So your token is not a card,
right.
but that's not necessarily the current language
Yeah.
either.
On the list reprint, it's the same language, so it might still say card.
Let me look up the Oracle text.
Yeah.
Gatherer.wizards.com. Parallax Wave. Dang nabbit.
Dang nabbit.
Dang nabbit. Parallax Wave. Rules text. Fading 5, and then it explains fading. Remove a fade counter from this enchantment. Exile target creature. When this enchantment leaves the battlefield, each player returns to the battlefield all cards they exiled with it. Again, it says
Yeah.
cards.
So I'm going to say it kills the 3/3 Black Angel.
Okay, we don't know that for sure, but based on what I'm reading here, I think you're probably right. Like it says return all cards. That's not a card.
Yeah.
Unless there's some kind of rule that like when you generate a token, you have to put a card in play to represent that token. I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, they do have token cards, but that doesn't mean that when you generate a token, it becomes a card.
Yeah. So possible
Interesting.
that
Possible.
helps.
Maybe somebody will fill us in on that. But this is the current pre-modern version of White Lightning. Building a white deck with soul lands that you use to try to ramp out larger creatures than are typically seen in a White Weenie style deck.
Yeah, I like it. I like the Soul Land thing in here. Just seems to go so well with Exalted Angel. It's pretty cool.
There's some additional cards that I've seen put into a shell like this that have like slightly more control elements. So some people run Armageddon, one colorless, 3 white. The soul lands allow you to get in, sooner than you
Mhm.
can in a traditional White Weenie deck. Maybe you get out one or two big creatures. Maybe you get out your Haunted Angel. Maybe you get out a Savannah Lion turn 1, Haunted Angel turn 2. They don't have any removal. Get in turn 3. That's quite nice.
Quite
That would
nice.
that would be like an ideal situation, really, when you have
Mhm.
5 power on the board to attack, and you get in.
And depending on your hand, if you have the luxury of choosing, you could like then save your City of Traders for after the Geddon,
Yeah. Uh,
if that
so
makes
these
sense.
are more control style builds. Geddon, Eternal Dragon, which is another high casting cost white card that's very impactful. You usually see it in blue-white control. Games that last a long time usually have a lot of mana. You can also use it for plane cycling. I think the casting cost for Eternal Dragon is 5 colorless, 2 white. I think it's a 5/5 flyer, but most
Mhm.
people use it to plane cycle, and you
Right.
can bring it back from your graveyard.
Okay.
Windborn Muse, 3 colorless, 1 white. Your opponent has to pay like 2 colorless every time they want to attack with a creature. I think that's Windborn Muse. So the soul lands allow you to ramp that out a little bit faster.
I said it backwards, by the way. You probably want to destroy the City of Traders with the Armageddon, not bring it out after.
Okay, yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Blow it up because as soon as you bring
Use
out
it
another
for the
land, it's gone.
ramp and then, yeah, clear it.
Windborn Muse, 2/3 flying. I forgot this was a 2/3 flyer. Creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays 2 colors for each creature attacking you. That's not bad to ramp out at
I
all.
need to start, yeah, playing this in more decks, especially like some of my 2-color decks and stuff, because it's pretty decent protection for a card that only has 1 white in its color, in its casting cost, you know?
And then I see Glow Rider played in some of these more control style builds again too. So this is quite nice. You have your soul lands, you have a soul land package, not glowering Rogon. Soul land package to generate. Now I'm typing in glowering Rogon. Soul land package to generate some ramp, get things out faster, combined with Geddon, disrupt their ability to cast spells, blow up their mana, and then ramp out creatures like Windborn Muse and Glow Rider that make it either more expensive for them to play spells or more expensive for them to attack you.
Mhm. Would go might work well with defense grid against certain decks.
So that's another option. Go a little bit more control style. And that's it. That's the end of my White Lightning discussion, Alex.
Awesome.
And if you don't have anything else to say about White Lightning, I think that brings us to the final segment of the episode. This segment is the Old Mage Poetry Corner. This is where Alex reads a curated, not a custom, a curated poem
So it has been decreed.
to channel subscribers, not subscribers, to channel members, paying channel members. You pay $1.99, you get a curated poem read to you by Old Mage Alex. Today's poem is dedicated to SPD LRT, our first and so far only channel member. We appreciate you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Not only that, SPD LRT also asked for like a certain asked us to cover a certain topic in the comments, right?
Yeah, we're working on it.
Old Mage Alex is on top of that shit.
Yeah.
You give us $1.99, we do an episode on whatever you want, as long as it's Magic the Gathering related.
Oh boy.
And as long as it's mostly old Frank. What is today's poem, Alex?
Today's poem is a classic from Percy Shelley, Ozymandias.
Been a long time since I heard this one. I've heard it before, but it's been a long time. So long, in fact, I don't actually remember it. It makes me think of the ending of the Planet of the Apes.
Oh, yeah,
Does
okay.
that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Continue. Sorry to
All
interrupt.
right, here we go. I met a traveler from an antique land who said, "Two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them, on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read which yet survive. Stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them and the heart that fed. And on the pedestal these words appear: My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. No thing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away."
I brought up squandered resources.
Thank you. I felt this poem reminded me of the art and the flavor text on Squandered Resources, which we just talked about a little while ago.
He traded sand for skins, skins for gold, gold for life. In the end, he traded life for sand. Afari Tales. That was a wonderful reading, Alex.
Thank you. That was our first poem. Thank you for
Our
your
first poem. Our first poem.
patronage.
SPDLST. I might have said SPDLRT earlier. SPDLST. That's to you, Ozymandias. Current market price of squandered resources, $88.12, by the way. This is a card that I was
Great
buying. I have two. I started buying them in like 2023. I was like, let me pick up a copy here and there. It was going down in price. So I was waiting. I was like, it's going to get cheaper because I wanted them to build a classic combo deck, Prosplum. I just wanted to build Prosplum, which isn't even
Mhm.
competitive in pre-modern. It's just too slow as a combo deck. And then before I was able to get all the pieces for a Prosplum, Squandered Resources shot up to like $100 because people were doing something with it in Commander. I think a new Commander came out or something. Uh, so now I got to wait for this to become significantly cheaper.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how cheap it's going to get. It might take a long time to get below $50 even.
Yeah, that might take a while.
It might take a while. We'll see how cheap it ever gets, especially now with, speculators looking at cards in pre-modern, especially reserve list cards in pre-modern. Nobody's really taking advantage of squandered resources for any pre-modern deck. So like it's not really important for that format yet, but there might be speculators who see this and be like, oh, maybe somebody will come up with something they want to do with it. So I might as well grab some now because it's reserve list, never going to be reprinted. All I wanted to do is play Prosplum. They screwed me. They screwed me. If you've listened this long, thank you very much. This is the end of episode 118, where Alex and I covered White Lightning, a classic white aggro deck from 1999, which burned brightly and then faded away very quickly when they changed the Oracle text. This was actually a piece of rules loring that I kind of enjoyed. I usually hate rules loring, not just because I can't pronounce rules loring, but because I like to play Magic the Gathering decks that are fair. I like to play cards in the spirit in which they were intended to be played. That's why the Dreadnought deck that I have is called Garfield as Dreadnought Intended. And it's not a mono blue Dreadnought deck that I play Stifle and Vision Charm in. It's a mono green deck where I ramp out big fatties and then I sacrifice 12 power worth of big fatties to bring out a Phyrexian Dreadnought because that's how the card was intended to be played. It's supposed to have a downside. You're not supposed to be able to play a 12/12 Trampler for 1 mana on turn 2 and end the game that quickly with fucking Phyrexian Dreadnought.
You tell
When
him,
it was
Steve.
printed, you did have Vision Charm, but you didn't have Vision Charm plus Stifle. So you didn't have 8 cards you could play out. You also didn't have Gush and as many card selection cards as you now have available to you to find your 2 combo pieces. Your combo brings out a 12/12 Trampler for 2 mana. You can't even chump block it. You could do it on turn 2. It's just a 2 combo piece. It's not right. Do I want them to
Not
ban
right.
Phyrexian Dreadnought in pre-modern? No, I don't really like bans that much because you know you can't just keep banning whatever's the most powerful deck
Yeah.
because then, well, 2 reasons. But you can do it, but when you ban the most powerful deck, then the next most powerful deck is just going to become the most powerful deck. So you're always going to have some bugbear in the format. But you do that enough, you completely neuter the format where there's no power left in the format whatsoever. I mean, that's the ultimate direction that would take you, right? It would take you to a completely neuter format that's not even fun to play.
Yeah. But I agree. I think there's still like a fix that needs to be fixed.
But on top of that, selfish reason, I don't own a lot of expensive like reserve list pre-modern cards. I actually do have a playset of Phyrexian Dreadnought. So don't you dare, Martin Berlin. If you target Phyrexian Dreadnought, how am I going to retire? I need to retire on Dreadnought. How much are they right now?
$200? I don't know.
If this trend continues, Alex, they will be, by the time I retire, roughly $300,000 a piece. And then I will be able to retire. But if Martin Berlin bans Phyrexian Dreadnought and pre-modern, I'll never be able to retire. I'll be working for them for the rest of my life. $183 market price. That's crazy.
Lightly played is like 230 right now.
I bought my last Dreadnought to finish the. It's. I only started buying Dreadnoughts because I just had one. Right. I opened one from a Mirage pack back in the 90s, and I just kept it. It was one of the few cards I never got rid of. And then it was a powerful deck in pre-modern. I was looking at the different powerful decks in pre-modern like 3 years ago, and I was like, well, it's literally the only powerful pre-modern reserve list card that I have even one copy of. So let me just make Mono Blue Dreadnought like the one powerful pre-modern reserve list card that I'll have a playset of, and that'll be like the powerful deck that I can build because I'm
Could have done
25% of the
worse.
way there. So I started buying some, and then I bought my last one for like $70 or something. I didn't think a couple years later it would be like a $200 card,
Oh yeah,
but
you
it
should sell
is.
them before they ban it.
I'm not gonna sell it because Martin's not gonna he's not gonna ban it. He would never do that to me.
We're just gonna errata it, Steve. Don't worry. We're gonna
Dreadnought is Garfield intended. That's why I started
yeah.
talking about this. Fair decks. I don't like Rouge Lorraine because I can't say the words. That's the primary reason. I lied earlier and I said that wasn't the primary reason. That is the primary reason I can't say the word.
Oddly
Waylay,
enough, sorry, go ahead.
Dreadnought, Magic is Garfield intended. Talk to you next week. Not next week, next episode. What's next episode going to be? It's going to be, you know what it's going to be, Alex?
No.
What are you talking? It's going to be a tournament report.
Oh yeah.
Buckeye Brawl tournament report. Don't
Yep.
forget your notepad. Don't forget your pencil. Don't forget to take notes.
I'm gonna make a charcoal sketch of the scene.
Don't forget your sketches. Do sketches of each opponent.
Okay.
Bring this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring my Infinity tokens, and each opponent, I'm going to do a sketch of my opponent on an Infinity token. I'm going to hand it to them after the game. They're all going to look the same, kind of like that, something like that. Each person.
Nice.
Little something you get from old Mage Steve if you sleeve up on the other side of the table against me at the Buckeye Bar. That's what the next episode is going to be. Probably going to be out in 2 weeks. That's what I'm targeting. Next weekend is the tournament. You and I are going to play that. And then the weekend after, we're going to try to record. So actually, it'll probably be like 3 weeks. And I got to edit it. I do minor editing, but it still takes a little bit of time. And I got a job, man. I got a full-time job, and I'm not very good at time management. You could say, Steve, get more efficient with your time. I'm trying, but it's not going to happen. I'm in my 40s. I've been trying to get more efficient my whole life. It's just not working. Sometimes you just have to recognize your weaknesses. You just have to adjust. You have to be like, okay, for this many years, I just thought I could get better. Eventually, you just have to realize you're just not going to get better and reset expectations. So I'm here
Mhm.
right now to reset the expectations. Episode every 3 weeks, probably. Talk to you later.
I ain't gonna do this anymore. That's all from me. Goodbye.